Turning now to existentialist curriculum, what kind of content vehicles will best express and develop these themes of choice, commitment, responsibility, and so forth. The fairest thing to say overall in terms of existentialist history is that the existentialists are much stronger on the humanities than they are on the sciences. There are, of course, philosophical reasons for that. It's in the humanities that we typically find emphasis on human themes, right? That is to say, human beings engaged in choice-making activities and bearing the responsibility for the choices that they make. And from the existentialist philosophical perspective, science typically is viewed under a cloud of suspicion as being too cause and effect, too deterministic, too formulaic, too willing then once finding the one right answer to be imposing it rather on individuals. So what we're interested then in is primarily curricular vehicles that are going to point up the child's capacity for choice, the child's capacity for making individual commitments, and folding in themes of responsibility and giving the students feedback on all of those themes here. And here then a natural is, of course, the arts. The arts do emphasize themes of choice, individuality, creativity, personal commitment, personal exploration, personal feedback. Is this working for me? The arts are also vehicles that have a reputation for there not being a right answer, right, or one right way of doing particular things. We give the child the option of writing a story, right, or painting something. There are no dictates about what the right colors are, what the right subjects are, and the child can be experimental, find his or her own true voice, and so forth. And so for all of those reasons, in most existentialist curricula, the arts are going to be the #1 curricular element. Now this then puts the existentialism in marked contrast to all of the other isms that we have looked at this semester. I think it's true to say that the realists, for example, do give the arts pride of place and see it as in many cases as being of equal importance with the sciences and the social sciences and so forth. But the existentialists are distinctive in the history of education in making art the #1 most important, live and die for curricular element. All right, secondarily in the humanities, the existentialists will also give pride of place to literature, reading literature, interpreting literature, digesting literature. And again, the reasons are fairly clear. What we find in literature usually, again, is human beings as the central agents, human beings making choices, human beings developing certain character traits, different kinds of characters coming into collision with each other, interacting with each other, conflicting with each other. In the case of literature, there's the whole panoply of different cultures and their literary traditions spanning much of human history. So we can explore the vast variety of different cultural expressions of ways of being human in the world. The vast historical number of historical contexts, exploring the different ways individuals have shaped their cultures and have been shaped by their cultures and so forth. And so what this then does, to the extent that we expose the students to lots and lots of literature, is give students a very broad sense of what the human possibilities are. Of course, we're all born in a particular culture and exposed to a certain number of possibilities in that culture there. Then the formal part of the educational process should, as much as possible, give the students as wide a range of human possibilities so that when they themselves make their own choices about what kind of human being, what kind of character they're going to develop, what they're going to do with their lives, what kind of processes and projects they're going to commit to, they can make an informed choice. They've been exposed to the widest possible arrangement of possible number of choices as the teachers can possibly make real to them. A third thing I think that is worth saying here has to do with the sciences. While the existentialists are not historically very science-friendly, as existentialism has developed and matured across the 20th century, and I don't think this has to be built into existentialist educational philosophy, it is nonetheless true that we have to acknowledge that science can and has been a vehicle for many people to commit to find a meaningful kind of life within. So I think existentialist educators will be open to the fact that, again, if the student shows some interest in some scientific or technological or mathematical field, that the educational resources should be made available to that student, and we should have teachers who are in a position rather to facilitate the student's interest in exploring those areas. But then finally, particularly, most important curricular vehicle, I think, should be philosophy, particularly with an emphasis on ethics. All through education, from day one in education, students are making choices, they're making commitments, and they are being held responsible for the choices they make. That is the subject matter of ethics right from day one. And so from small-scale issues about the choices that children make in terms of the projects that they're going to engage in, how they're interacting with other people, perhaps on some of those projects, right or not, all the way through ethics, making choices, hopefully making informed choices among various options, and assessing the outcomes and taking responsibility for those outcomes, and then making perhaps new choices or making better informed choices and longer term choices as we grow older. All of that applied ethics has to be all the way through the educational process built into existentialist education.